In the quiet, unassuming town of Millhaven, life once moved at a slow, predictable, and almost comforting pace. But beneath this tranquil surface, a shadow was growing. Over the past decade, residents started to notice something deeply unsettling. People began to disappear, not all at once, but gradually, systematically, and without a single logical explanation. This is the story of a place that seemed to turn on its residents, a slow-burning horror, where the line between reality and fear blurred into nothingness. This is the story of the town that ate itself. It all started back in 2012 with the first quiet reports trickling in. A young man, barely out of his teens, failed to return home from his shift at the local diner. A few weeks later, a mother vanished without a trace while walking her dog along a familiar path. At first, the authorities treated them as isolated incidents, chalking them up to unfortunate accidents, or perhaps people simply choosing to leave their lives behind. But as the months turned into years, the numbers told a different story. Local news archives and even CDC statistics began to reflect a grim trend. The number of disappearances in Millhaven was steadily increasing, year after year, with no clear cause or connection. Friends and family were left in a state of agonizing uncertainty, grappling with unanswered questions and a growing sense of dread. Each new disappearance was another chip taken from the town's sense of security, another crack in the foundation of their peaceful community. The initial explanations of coincidence began to wear thin, replaced by a cold, creeping fear that something far more sinister was at play. The disappearances weren't just random events. They were becoming a pattern, a dark stain spreading across the fabric of the town. As investigators dug deeper, they began to piece together a chilling puzzle. When they mapped out the locations of the disappearances, a disturbing pattern emerged. The vanishings weren't random at all. They were clustered in specific neighborhoods, often older parts of town with winding streets and deep shadows. Even more unnerving, the victims were almost always last seen near public spaces, playgrounds, town squares, or the quiet main streets that were once the heart of the community. Blurred CCTV footage captured fleeting moments of them walking alone, just before they vanished from sight. There was no sign of a struggle, no evidence of forced entry, and nothing was ever stolen. It was as if these people were simply erased from existence. The lack of conventional evidence left law enforcement baffled and the community terrified. It was during this time that a dark phrase started to be whispered among the residents. The town is feeding on itself. At first, it sounded like a grim metaphor for the growing paranoia and decay. But as the numbers continued to climb, the phrase took on a terrifyingly literal meaning. It felt as if the very streets and alleys of Millhaven had developed an appetite, and its own residents were on the menu. As the disappearances continued their relentless pace, a thick blanket of fear settled over Millhaven, suffocating the once tight-knit community. Trust, the bedrock of any small town, began to crumble. Neighbors who had known each other for decades started casting suspicious glances over their fences. Families warned their children not to talk to anyone, and the once friendly faces of strangers became sources of potential danger. The police department was inundated with frantic calls reporting every little anomaly. Shadowy figures lurking near streetlights, strange noises in the dead of night, the unsettling feeling of being watched. The true horror of Millhaven wasn't just the disappearances themselves. It was the psychological erosion that followed. The town's slow burn terror was watching the community fracture and turn inward. Paranoia took root in every household. Children were no longer allowed to play outside after dusk. The once bustling parks and playgrounds fell silent, their swings creaking eerily in the wind. Everyday life devolved into a constant state of high alert, a tense game of fear and vigilance where every shadow held a potential threat and every creak of a floorboard sent a jolt of adrenaline through your veins. The town wasn't just losing its people, it was losing its soul. Today, hundreds of people still call Millhaven home, but the atmosphere is forever changed. The air is thick with tension and unspoken grief. Investigators, armed with a decade's worth of CDC statistics, news archives, and cold case files, continue to puzzle over the phenomenon. They re-examine the data, hoping to find a clue, a connection, anything that could explain the relentless rise in disappearances. But the mystery remains unsolved. Some who have studied the case whisper about a dark theory, one that defies all logic. They believe the town itself, its winding streets, its deep shadows, and perhaps even the collective fear of its people has somehow become a predatory entity. They suggest that Millhaven is trapped in a self-perpetuating cycle of fear and loss, where the town literally feeds on its own. Whether it's a metaphor for social decay or something far more terrifying, the fact remains. The disappearances continue, and the town is still watching, still waiting. Millhaven remains a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones you can't see, hidden in the familiar places you call home. Thank you for joining us on this unsettling journey into the heart of Millhaven. If you found this story as chilling as we did, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into the unknown. Stay safe and always be aware of the shadows.